Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I am here today with another tutorial. Okay, so today we are going to make a crocheted sweater. The pattern is super duper easy, and I promise if you just follow the video, you'll be able to do it. So before we get started, I want to explain a couple things that I've kind of failed to do in the video. So what you're going to be doing is creating 2 panels. And when I mean 2 panels, you're going to be creating one front side and one back side. So to create the panels, what you're going to do is, if you have a measuring tape like me, you can take the person's waist measurements, divide that by half, and then create a chain that's the measurement of the waist divided in half, unstretched. The girl I'm making the sweater for, her waist measurement is 20 inches, and I divided that by half and got 10. And so my foundation chain is 10 inches long, unstretched. You will create 2 panels of the exact same size. This pattern is very easily adjustable for bigger sizes. So part 2 is gonna have our sleeve tutorial. So stay tuned for that. And that's pretty much it. So go ahead, grab your yarn, grab your hook, and let's get into the video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to be making a crochet sweater. So this sweater can be adjusted for any size, but the size that we're going to be making today is for a toddler. So I'm using 2 colors that I have no idea the name of either of these colors, but they are from Red Heart Yarns. So take your first color and go ahead and create your slip knot, and we are going to be chaining 34. And like I said, this pattern was designed for a toddler, for a girl. She's about 3 to 4 years old. So go ahead and chain 34 and meet me back when you're done. So at this point you should have 34 chained. Because this pattern was so specific to her body type, I'm just making sure that my chain measures 10 inches unstretched. So that's what I'm doing. You don't have to do this. If you measure from hip to hip for yourself or for whoever you're making the sweater for, that'll work out just fine. So I'm just making sure that I hit my 10-inch mark. So now that I know that I have my 10 inches, I'm going to continue on wigging my sweater. So go ahead and chain 2. And I like to place my hook on that 3rd chain. And then you're going to half double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook, as you see me pointing out. And then you're going to put 1 half double crochet into each stitch until you reach the bottom. So you should have completed your half double crochet row, and this does count as our first row. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do a regular double crochet, and we're always going to start off with a turning chain. Some people count their turning chains as stitches. I don't, so I always crochet into the very first stitch. So if you're chaining 2, it would technically be your 3rd stitch from your hook, and that's just how I've always done it. And you're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch. So when you're done, you're going to crochet a total of 12 rows, and that is including your half double crochet row. So if you're going off of what you're doing now, after you finish this first double crochet row, which is your 2nd row, you're going to do 10 more rows of double crochet. So take your time and meet me when you're done. Okay, if you have your 12 rows completed, this is what your work is looking like. And I am doing stripes, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yarn, and I'm going to attach my second color. And what I do to cut my yarn is I just pull up a chain one, grab some scissors, and it's super easy. And pull through, and I pull that knot tight. Now, attaching a color is super different for everyone. This is how I attach my color. If you have a specific way that you do it, go ahead and do that. But if not, just watch this little segment, and I'll show you how to attach a color. Okay, once you have your colors successfully attached, you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and we're still working in double crochets. So you're going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch around, and make sure you put 1 double crochet into the same stitch that you attached your color into, because that will be your first stitch. If you don't, your stitch count will be off. So this next part is super easy. We're just working in straight rows. So if you want to follow the pattern that I'm doing, I'm going to be doing 2 rows of cream followed by 4 rows of my first color. If you don't want to do that and you just want to do a straight color, then go ahead and crochet 26 rows of half double crochet. If you've done what I've done, this is what your 2 rows of whatever other color you choose should look like. So now I'm just about to change colors back to my original color, which I call color A. And I literally tie off the same every single time. And now I'm going to do 4 rows of color A, followed by 2 rows of color B. And you're going to have a total of 26 rows. If you do the pattern that I do, you know that your row count is correct if you have 3 stripes of your color B and 2 stripes of 4 rows of color A. I know that sounded a little confusing, but just watch the video and I promise you'll understand. So I'll meet you back when we're ready to move on. I'm just checking in just to make sure that you guys understood what I said. I know it was a little confusing. So you see, after I did my 2 rows of cream, I just did 4 regular rows of color A. If you've done a pattern like me with the striping, this is what it should look like. If not, then you just have 26 rows of just double crochet. So what you need to do next is rewind the video if you have to and create a second panel and then sew in your ends. It's easier to sew in your ends now than after we sew everything together. So go ahead and do that and meet me back when you're done. Alright, with all your ends sewn in and your second panel created, this is what your work should look like. So now we are ready to move on. Like I said before, you should have created a second panel, and now it's time to create shoulder flaps. So this sweater, I don't know why I forgot, but this sweater will have sleeves on it, and in order to put sleeves on it, you need something to anchor them to. That's kind of how I look at shoulder seams. Well, I call them shoulder flaps because that's what they look like. So we're really just gonna be creating this rectangle flap on both sides of our work on both panels, and it is super duper easy. So what you want to do is attach whatever color you want to one side of your work, and we're going to crochet into 8 stitches. It's very important that you remember that, because our sweater is going to be, the panels are going to be sewn together, so that's how you would make the neckline as well. So if you go over your 8 stitches in the case of this sweater, the neckline will look really funky. So for these measurements, make sure you just crochet into 8 stitches. So we have our 8 stitches, and literally this is the easiest part of the whole entire dress. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2, and you're going to work back along the row that you just created, and you're going to do this for 6 rows. So you already have 1 row down and you're working on your second one. You just need 4 more rows after this, and you're going to do this on both sides of your panel, on both panels, and then weave in those ends, and we can go ahead and move on. So I'm just showing you what it should look like after you do that, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you have 6, then you know you're doing it right. Just cut your yarn and start working on the other panels. Okay, at this point, both panels have 2 sets of shoulder flaps on them, and it is time for us to sew this thing together. So you're going to turn your work right sides together so that the wrong sides are facing out, and you're going to identify how far you want your stitches to go up, because remember, we do have to create armholes, and then we are going to crochet the top of the shoulder flaps or seams together. So I'm just trying to see how far I want to stitch up the side to create my armholes, and once I have that visual in my head, I'm gonna go ahead and attach some yarn and get to sewing. Now, I am not a great sewer. I have stated that many times before. So what I like to do is tie a knot on the sewing needle or the darning needle, and that's how I like to keep it in place. So the best way for me to explain this next part is I tried my hardest to go into like only 1 loop. Now, since we're crocheting up the edge of the stitch and we don't have the V's, it's kind of harder to get the concept of that, but just do the best you can. That's the best advice I can give. And I'm going to leave this segment in there so you guys can see how I did it. Now, if you have a better way, please feel free to drop a tutorial so I can learn how to sew correctly. If not, just do what I do, and it came out perfectly fine. So once you are done, we can go ahead and move on to sewing up the shoulder seams. So we are approaching the white side, and I just wanted to show you guys what I did. So you could just tie off, create a knot, and end with the color A if you've done the stripes like me, or you could be like me and just continue on with the same yarn. So I didn't want to waste a lot of yarn, and frankly, I was just too lazy to change the color. So I just went on and sewed with the rainbow color. And when I flipped it inside out, it looked perfectly fine to me. I couldn't see any of the rainbow yarn on the other side, so I wasn't bothered with it. But if you will be extremely bothered by that, then I would suggest you do it the correct way and change the color. Okay everyone, now it's time to sew up the shoulder seam. So this part is super duper easy. What I did was cut a smaller piece of yarn and attached it to my darning needle, and I tied a knot at the end. I basically attach it when I'm sewing with a darning needle the same way each time, so it's nothing different. But it's important that we sew this part up because this is one portion of our shoulder, our sleeve. So what I did was I put my darning needle through the back stitch of one of the V's and proceeded to attach my proceeded to attach my yarn the same exact way that I always do. So just, if you have any troubles, just watch this and follow along the best you can, or I would recommend that you go to an experienced sewer's video and watch one of those. So you see me just attaching my yarn the same way, and the next step is to literally going to be to tie a double knot, and then into each V that you see you're going to sew into the back loops back and forth. I have no idea what this stitch is called, so I do apologize about that, but if this can be of any help to anybody out there, just continue watching. So this is pretty much it for this portion of the video. In part 2, we will be adding the sleeves and any other finishing touches to our sweater. I want to thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.